In October 2025, the US opened a new front in its fight with China, not in fabs or mines, but at sea. Washington hit every Chinese-built or Chinese-run ship entering US ports with new fees. Beijing replied within hours. Mirror fees, tit for tat, and ton for ton. Scott Bessent, the US Treasury Secretary, told Fox Business on October 13, 2025, China's economy is built on leadership and control, and we in America will not allow them to command or control us. Two superpowers taxing each other's vessels like hostile fleets in a silent war. China is already winning the trade war America wanted. Hal Brands, professor at Johns Hopkins and columnist for Bloomberg, on October 19, 2025. The question is, how could China be already winning before the first bill even landed? How did the US, once the world shipyard, cede the oceans once it used to command? And how did China, barely a player 25 years ago, become the place that builds the ships everyone sails on? This is what we will discuss together in today's episode. I am your host, and this is the Interrunner Plus. If you are new here, please consider subscribing to the channel. It is the free thing you can do to support us making this type of content. To see it, we have to go back. 2001, China joins the World Trade Organization. In 2002, Beijing sets a national target. We're going to be number one in shipbuilding by 2015. Factories expanded, capital poured in, and deadlines met early. 2008, China passes Japan. 2010, it passes South Korea, hitting their goal 5 years ahead of schedule. This wasn't luck. It was a long plan executed with scale and speed. By the time Washington moved to tax the ships, the shipyards had already decided the balance of power. Today, more than a third of the world's commercial fleet was built in China. South Korea and Japan still matter, but look at the United States. Less than 1%, not even a rounded error on the global chart. Just 70 years ago, after World War II, America was the shipyard of the planet. Now the map has flipped completely. Faced with that new reality, US labor unions and industry leaders decided it was time to fight back. To them, it wasn't about market share, it was about survival. On March 12, 2024, 5 major American labor unions, led by the United Steelworkers, filed a petition to the Office of the U.S. Trade Representative. And no one captured that frustration better than David McCall, president of the United Steelworkers. He told the Financial Times, America was once a leader in commercial shipping, but in the last 20 years, the Chinese Communist Party has built a strategy to dominate every link in global trade by pouring billions into shipyards and manipulating the rules. That quote hit Washington like a wake-up call. It turned an economic imbalance into something bigger, a strategic threat, and it pushed the US government to act. On April 17, 2025, Trump's team unveiled what it called a revival plan for the US shipbuilding sector. So Washington came up with a 3-step plan: simple, strategic, and symbolic. Step 1, launch an official investigation under Article 301 of the 1974 Trade Act into China's trade practices. Lay the groundwork, build the case. Step 2, hit back with tariffs. New fees on Chinese-built or Chinese-operated ships entering American ports. Make them expensive to operate. And then came step 3, the smart part. Waive those same fees for any company that ordered a new ship from an American shipyard. Classic carrot and stick. Punish one side, reward the other. On paper, it sounded smart. It sounded like the start of a Made in America revival. The plan looked good on slides and terrible in numbers. The strategy seems to completely ignore the staggering reality of the situation. The raw numbers here tell a very, very different story. Because while the US was sketching its revival strategy, China was already hitting back. The first huge problem with the US strategy was undermining just how quickly and forcefully China would punch back. Just 4 days before the tariffs took effect on October 10th, 2025, the Chinese Ministry of Transport announced mirror tariffs of its own. Same timing, same language, same leverage. A near-perfect copycat turned against Washington. And that's when the data started to expose just how outmatched America really was. And just like that, any advantage Washington thought it had was gone overnight. Because the real problem isn't policy, it's production. So far in 2025, China has built 717 large commercial ships. That's not a typo. 717. Now, look at the US. In that exact same time frame, just one ship. This isn't a gap, it's a canyon, a total mismatch of industrial power. And here's exactly why. A big ship made in China costs around $295 million. That same ship in America, up to 4 times more expensive. China's yards can turn out over 1,000 ships a year. The US struggles to make 10. So if you are a global shipping company, the choice is obvious. China builds fast, builds cheap, and delivers on time. America, right now, can't compete on any of these metrics. And the ripple effects of that imbalance reach far beyond shipyards. And here's the knockout punch. When analysts ran the number, they found something brutal. Even with the new American tariffs, buying a ship from China is still the smarter financial move. The gap in cost and speed is so massive that the penalties barely make a dent. China's advantage simply absorbs the tariff. So, if the tariffs aren't slowing China down, and they're not reviving US shipyards, what are they actually doing? Who's really paying the price? That cost doesn't disappear into thin air. Shipping giants like Maersk have already said it plainly. We're not eating those costs. They pass them on to the importers, and the importers pass them on to the retailers, and at the very end of that chain, yes, you guessed it, the American consumer picks up the bill. Every tariff meant to punish China ends up taxing the American household instead. So here's the bottom line. America just put a policy in place that raises prices at home, while barely touching China's shipyards. It drains the shopper's wallet and leaves the balance of power exactly where it was. That's not a strategy. That's a self-inflicted wound. And this leads me to the question of the episode. If this is the plan, fighting an unwinnable industrial war with tariffs that circle back to the American household, can the US rebuild real industrial strength without tipping the next financial crisis? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. This is the Interrunner Plus. Please like this video and subscribe to the channel. It costs nothing but helps us a lot.